the great Rahim Al Haj welcoming you. What are the differences between the Iraqi oud and the Turkish oud?
In terms of as a school or the oud itself.
The
I
oud
mean,
itself.
because we do have differences in the shape, in the style, in the design. Oud, the Turkish oud versus Iraqi oud versus Oriental oud, which is Oriental means like all this Egyptian, Syrian, Lebanese. And it actually goes back also to Iran to some degree, even though they have their own interpretation for the shape of the oud. One. Now, when we're talking about the school, that's of course there's a big differences between these school of oud, three school of oud, which is the Oriental school of oud, Iraqi oud school of oud, or Turkish school of oud. Now, if we make it more simple to allow people to understand the differences, is that we'll start with the shape. I mean, the oud,
Yes.
Iraqi oud it's big. Now actually they make it more smaller just because they put some new style to it, which is what they call it the floating bridge. And that's what the Iraqi right now is famous for that, which is it wasn't available for the Oriental or for the Turkish stone. They use the same technique in that regard. Now, for the Iraqi school of oud, is they have certain elements to identify the Iraqi school, which is first of all the technique. The second is the distinct maqams that what they use always. So what they mix between the technique and the Oriental. It's in the middle. So if you go, for example, to Egyptian or Oriental, you have one style which is we call it tatrib, right? Tarab.
Yes.
And that's how they use it. Of course, they use 5 instead of 6 string. And then it depends on the maqam and the tatrib, which is the qasim always, and that's famous and very known with the Sambati, with the Atrash, and all these virtuoso player and composer. So this is part of the Oriental schools, which is the tatrib. So Iraqis, they took that tatrib and they built on top of it the new technique, which is a new vision, a new environment. Means the notes, as Munir Bashir said, always we have to consider the silence of music versus notes.
Yes.
Wow, really, when you think about it, what do you mean silent? And it's in music as note. And so you take the note. And I call it activating. You activate the note. It's like the do. So, for example, if you think, it is so fascinating to me still as a listener and as not just a musician. It's like, why when we play lower do versus Joab do versus the third position of it's the same note, but it has different taste. It has different color. It has different feeling. It is fascinating. It is really fascinating when you play one note and the same note, put it in different octave, it will give you different feeling. Now, that's technique. Of course, the oud it's a very in-demanding instrument. So, we take the technique and we put it in top of the Oriental and make it really fascinating. It's just beautiful. It's not just you are activated by the tarab for the tatrib. In the same time, you are fascinated by the technique and by the virtuosity of the oud. So we use all the oud from the beginning to the end of the zenith, and that's every note. It has to be counted, and that's will give it. I mean, of course. Goes back to the founder of the Iraqi school of oud, which is the Sharif Muhyiddin Haidar, and with his students, which is 3 of the geniuses also, Munir Bashir, Jamil Bashir, Salman Shukr, which is actually, it is fascinating too, if we talk about it in very details, that these three musicians who studied under the same instructor, each one has his own vision of, his own way of expressing the notes. I mean, if you go to Salman Shukr will go to the more to Turkish, and because of his descent, of course, and influenced by his teacher. If you go to Jamil Bashir, he mixed that. He mixed the Iraqi, very Iraqi musician. I mean, like Maqam, for example. He's very kind of devoted musician who never betrayed that secrecy of the Iraqi Maqams. He kept it, and he built on top of it that technique he learned it. So each note, when you hear it, like, it's meaningful. And then we go to Munir Bashir, and then he took it actually further than that, right?
Yes.
And with the taqasim. So when you think of Munir Bashir, what's the genius about him? He is his ability of the three notes who will give you have to think about it, not just enjoy it. Just like to think about, like, how the hell he did that? Yes. I mean, like, it's just two notes. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, what does that mean? So, and then on top of that, of course, Rami is the Risha technique.
Yes.
As we know, the Risha is the most important element in the Oud playing, and that's, you have to be really master your Risha. Right. I mean, in all the technique from down, down, up, to down, up, down, down, or to croche or double croche or whatever. I mean, like, there's a lot of technique that every musician from beginners to basically to advanced player, they have to master that. And you are an instructor, and you are a teacher. You are a wonderful teacher, actually. So you always tell your student, don't burn steps. I mean, you go by one, by one. So they have to understand this is the fundamental of the instrument. The instrument is like really not rocket science. You have an oud, which is 6 string. You have your hand in your right hand. That's it. I mean, you don't have anything else, right, to be honest. So, but that's what make it significant for one artist to another artist. So, like, for example, Nasir Shamba, he has his own individual vision of the playing. Khalid Muhammad Ali, which is all of us, Rahim Al Haj. I mean, there's several musicians who came. Salim Abdel Karim, for example, my teacher. I mean, all these musicians. It's really it's inconceivable to me, like, how we studied, all of us, in the same umbrella. Yes. We get the same sources, but yet we have your own individual voice and expression of this instrument. Now, if you go to the Turkish, they use technique a lot, and versus their own, also the maqam, we use it. So what they do is extended the note, and they have a lot of silent in it. And that's why this is their signature. And other signature, which is the samais, and that's what they are very famous for that. And that's beautiful form of music. Now, Oriental music, as we know, they share all the notes, they share all the maqams, they share all the elements in it. Most of the time is concentrated on the tatrib, on the tarab, concentrating on involving the audience. Allah, you have to kind of give them sense of communication. Plus, of course, songs, and that's what famous for all Arab world, and that's really heavy. Will related to the Egyptian school. I mean, that's when you think that Egypt was the center of the song, so the center of the element between word and music. So you go from all these geniuses of music, I call them, like from Abdul Wahab to Sambati to Al-Muji to Kamal Tawil, and list of that, plus the significant and important singer from Kalthum to Abdul Halim to Farid Al-Atrash to all of that, and they devoted their musical talent, and each one it is fascinating. They also, again, I mean, Egypt, when you think about it, Balik Hamdi has nothing to do with Abdul Wahab. Abdul Wahab has nothing to do with the Muji.
True.
Muji has nothing to do with Sumbati, even though some of them the same generation. If you think about like Kamal Tawil, Muhammad Muji, Balik Hamdi, all of them the same age. Actually, they studied at the same time.
Yeah.
But yet, their approach to music, it's fascinating, really. So that's what in general, of course, the differences between the schools. And right now, actually, it becomes more sophisticated. I mean, sophistication. What I mean by it is that the oud, it doesn't become you become the oud and 4, 5, 6, 7 maqams and you play. No, it becomes like really, it's become scientific. It's like your instructor. You tell your student how they sit and how they hold their oud from where they started academically. Before, we don't have that kind of. We're talking about theory for years or less. There's no academic approach for the oud itself. I mean, it started with Iraq and Syria. I mean, Iraq, for example, they have 2 institutes. One, Fine Art Institute, which is actually the oud. They study just Bach and Mozart and Schubert. They don't play Sama'iyat and Longas. No, they don't. And we have Mahad Dirasat al-Nagamiyya, which is the high institute in music, yes, where we study just Arabic music. This is fascinating, really. So, actually, it becomes like scientific now. I mean, you can't teach the oud the way 50 years ago.
Sure.
It becomes very systematic, academic way from the beginning to the end. True. I mean, there is no, you can't just do that. And I give, started with orchestra, with oud orchestra, with Salim Abdul Karim. We done it. I've done it when I was a student at that time in Iraq. And Nasir Shama, he done it. I mean, he played it with Salim Abdul Karim. And then after Salim Abdul Karim, Munir Bashir, he started with Bayar ensemble, which is like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 oud player. They play together. That wasn't really available for years. I mean, there's no, and of course we have to which is not we play just the same melodies. No, we for example, when we did in Baghdad the oud quartet, which is with Munir Bashir and me and Raad Khoushaba and Khalid Muhammad Ali, we are 4, and we played lines. It's like a quartet. Basically, it's not just the same melody or the same piece. We played it together. No, and that was revolution, to be honest, in terms of playing, composing, and how we use this beautiful invention happened to the music, which is the harmony, and that's what the difference between Oriental music, Arabic music, or Western music. Western music more harmonic, and the Arabic music more melodic. Now, the beautiful things, we put the harmonic in top of the Arabic music. That's fascinating. That's absolutely make it really, really great. So, studying oud has to be academic way, and otherwise you will not really succeed in your studying for that instrument.
So genius. I'm so excited to keep going on this heat of conversation, because basically it's like I'm so grateful that you are here to give all this information to everybody. and especially about your whole experience in music. And please tell us more about your experience as a musician who's immigrant musician, more than I remember that when I came to America at first, it's like I have my oud and the officers at the airport. I would say, what the hell is that? It's like I thought at our end, I thought, oh my gosh, how dare you, right? Because this is the instrument everybody knows in the Arab world. But this is where I start to recognize there is a problem, right? There is a culture problem. There is a knowledge problem.
Sure.
And for sure, you come way earlier than we come, and you experience more, and you educated tons of people hear more about the oud instrument through your tours, concerts, and all of the magnificent work you did. What can you tell about this journey?
It's really journey to become 21 years actually. It's like, we came from Arab and Europe. They are very familiar with the oud. The oud in the West, unfortunately, is not really familiar. Even though I give a credit for beautiful musician who did a phenomenal job, and they came like 20 years before me actually to the United States, like Simon Shaheen, Jihad Al-Rasi, who's just retired. I mean, he's one of the most important ethnomusicologists in the world actually, and who really influenced and make the Arabic music available. Because that time period, I'm talking about 30 years to 40 years, the oud was very limited to the Arab Samia, Arab who is really nostalgic about their music. So they played it in bars and Arabic clubs in New York or Michigan and Chicago, and that was very, very close. And then moved to Los Angeles, and he was very limited. He wasn't in the for wild and wide audience of the Western, because they didn't hear it before, and it wasn't really, like I said, available. So I give them really a big credit for this wonderful musician who still now they compose any music, and like I said, Simon Shaheen and Jihad Al-Rasi. When I came, and I came from different environment, means I came from the Iraqi school that we've been talking about, which is not actually even familiar to a lot of Arab people. They never really experienced somebody go to the stage by himself, sitting on the chair and playing concerts for 2 hours. Yes. That wasn't really, oud for them is just accompaniment instrument for qanun, and they blah blah, and they play songs and accompaniment instrument. So they do not have this experience of being in the concerts for one solo performer, and that's where I came from. Yes. Right? Not to forget, Rami, is that, like I said, it's unfamiliarity to the oud itself. So I was just really kind of struggling with that. I mean, like I can't just go there and play traditional folk music, because yes, I studied that, but this is not me. I already established my career as a composer and as a solo performer, as if munfarid. And that's what we trained for.
Yes.
I mean, I studied with Munir Bashir, I studied with Salim Abdul Karim, even Khalid Muhammad Ali taught me, and that's who I am. So anyway, when I arrived, and I found it so extremely difficult for me to broach my because now I said, now I need to tell people what the oud means.
Itself, exactly. That was correct. While I'm writing down my bio, they said, you have to write down the bio of the instrument too.
Correct. I mean, what the oud, to convince them the differences between solo performer and accompaniment instrument itself. I'm like, so that's what we're talking about. Yes. What the difference between Turkish school and Iraqi school and Egyptian school. I'm like, so I find myself really in position I'm not really grateful for it, just because it shifted my intention, because I'm a composer. That's all I do. Bring my
Absolutely.
instrument and I go to this concert and I play. And that's it. And in fact, that's a really beautiful story. When Smithsonian Folkways approached me to do a record with them, and they said, "Hey, Rahim, we heard about you, and we would love to do a record with you to uh, to to do a record about the Iraqi folk music or traditional Iraqi music."
Absolutely.
And I said, "No, I don't need. I don't really. I don't play traditional Iraqi music. I'm just like, no, I'm a composer and I play my own music. And look, this Smithsonian, it's a beautiful opportunity for me, right? I mean, you here and nobody knows who I am, really. But that's another story. Really, you feel frustrated, like, oh God, I go to the coffee shop and I was telling my friend Kelly, she was really wonderful friend, she's still my dear friend. And I was said, oh, nobody come to me and say, hey Rahim, how are you? Where you playing? I said, hey Rahim, people, they do not know what the Ouds look like. What are you talking about? How do they know who you are? So anyway, so when Smithsonian approached me for that, I said no. I refused actually to record traditional Iraqi music until AlHaj Sanabor, he was the associate director of the Smithsonian. He's an incredible ethnomusicologist himself. He has a PhD from UCLA about Sufi music, Sufism in general. And he asked me one question, Rami. And he said, Rahim, let me ask you one question. How many people do you think in the United States they distinct between your own music and tradition?
Great question. Yes.
And I look at them and I partly said, absolutely none. I mean, almost none, really, in Western
ears.
I mean, how do they know the difference between tradition and Rahim's composition? And of course, because they didn't hear it before. And I said, you know what? Send me the contract.
He closed you on air, so
exactly. And guess what? I get a Grammy for this record. It's a solo. It's a solo. It's a solo record.
Yes, it is. It's the first solo record, maybe for you in America. No, was the first one.
No, I did. This is a beautiful story. I need to share it with you and your student. Is that this is not my first record. My first record was the second Baghdad, which is it's a phenomenal. I'm sometimes I get emotional when I really talk about it, because being a musician all your life, you come here, you are none at all. I mean, like, you are absolutely no one. I mean, none. You are an instrument not familiar, your name is not there, and you are no one. I came here, actually, I didn't speak English too. I mean, absolutely zero. So it was really difficult to adjust and to do it. So, and I did first concert, and it was very poor. And I remember they said, do you have a record? Because I do have cassettes when I came from Baghdad, and I was in Syria, so it wasn't really available. And when I came here, nobody used cassette anymore. Like, there's no cassette. So they said, no, we need CD. And I never saw CD. I mean, like, I'm not familiar with it, really. I mean, it wasn't familiar back home. Yeah. That makes it's not available. So that's my first record. I did it's called Second Baghdad, and I remember when I went to the studio and I didn't have money. Well, I don't have money. I have $300. And I remember Kelly, my friend, was telling me, she said, Rahim, in Arabic, because she was teaching me English and I was teaching Arabic, because I have a degree in Arabic literature from Mustansani University from Baghdad. Plus, I have a diploma in composition. Anyway, so she said, Rahim, look, I need you to finish whole record in 1 hour. Do you understand? This is in Arabic, actually, what I told me. And she said, because if you pass 1 hour, either 1 minute or 2 minutes. Doesn't matter. They will charge us another $300. And I said, okay. I went to the studio. I did it in 56 minutes. I mean, a whole record. It was like one take, just like from the beginning to the end.
Wow.
And I finished it. And I give them $300. Now I have to produce. I don't have money really to produce, so I don't. And I remember I received in mail a credit card from Bank of America. He said, "Hey, Rahim Haj, congratulations, you approved for a credit card in $2,000." And they send the check step, right?
Yes, yes. For sure.
And I said, I went to Kelly and said, "Hey, Kelly, can I use this money?" And she said, "Yeah, but you need to return it with interest
too.
I said, "I don't care. But can I use it?" She said, "Sure." So I took this $2,000, and I went. This guy, his name, man, he's one genius guitar player, and like really genius, and he's also a studio engineer, recording engineer. He mastered my record. They told him, "Look, this Iraqi guy, he needs to go back," because he said, "What the hell I'm doing here? Really, nobody knows who I am. They do not know the oud." I'm like, "I want to go back." And that's another story, to be honest. I wanted to go back to Iraq, to Syria, because I said, no, it's really, let me tell you the story, actually. I'm not sure exactly. So I came here as a political asylum. When you come as a political asylum, they give you 1 month free rent. And then after 1 month, you have to find your way. You have to survive. So there's a guy, he came he's my caseworker. He's actually Cuban, and he came to me. It's a famous story. It's called McDonald's story. It's been like New York Times, Guardian, everywhere. I call it McDonald's story. So anyway, he came to me and he said, "Hey, Rahim, we have a good news. We find you a job." And I said, "Okay, which kind of job?" He said, "In McDonald's." And I said, "Okay, so which kind of institute is that? Do they teach Western classical music or Eastern?" And he smiled and he said, "No, it's McDonald." And I said, "Oh yeah, I know," because I don't speak English.
Yes.
I said, "Oh yeah, I know about McDonald." So they teach just Western classical music. I'm a violinist because I trained as my second instrument was a violin. And he smiled again. He said, "No, it's not an institute. It's a restaurant." And I told him, "But I don't play in restaurant." And he said, "No, well, you're not going to play in McDonald's." No. I said, "So what do you need to do?" And he said, "Well, you're going to be, flipping burgers or something."
Yes.
And I said, I whatever bad word already learned,
yes.
So I told him. I threw him like that. And he said, no, man. Do you know who I am, really?
Yes.
I said, "Yeah, we know you are blah, 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 but it's the way it is. You have to work and to pay rent and survive." And I said, "Can you send me back? I need to go back to Syria." And he said, excuse me, he said, "Yes, you can. Well, the problem is you have to pay the ticket, not just the ticket you go into Syria. You have to pay the ticket that you came to the United States." And that was like $3,000, $4,000, $5,000.
Yes, at least.
I don't have it. So I stuck really in the desert, in the middle of nowhere in New Mexico. So at any rate, and then I started my record, which is called The Second Baghdad. And there's a dear friend of mine who is an Iraqi artist who did the artwork now. He's actually a professor in New York University. And I get this $2,000, and I sent it to the company with The Second Baghdad. And they told me, "Oh, we need $50 to put a barcode." I don't have $50.
Yeah.
I said, "No, I don't have it." Print it without barcode. I don't have.
Wow.
I don't have. I do not have actually $50 to put barcode in my record. Uh-huh.
Wow.
But what happened, Rami, is within 16 months, I sold 24,000 copy of the second bag.
Wow. Wow.
Within 16 months.
That
I
is
mean, like,
awesome.
I was in concert, my concert, like, they give me $300, $400, $500, but I sell worth of $4,000 of records.
That is
And
awesome.
yeah, and like I said, and then I afford to put
To both, yeah, for
barcode for.
sure.
And then after that, I started to to compose music for quartet, string
Yes,
quartet,
absolutely.
for orchestra, and even actually rock and roll. I mean, believe it or not, I mean, I toured for 6 months with REM. They heard me, and
Wow.
Peter Bach, he saw me in my concert in Seattle, and he came to me and he said, "I'm Peter Bach," and I don't know who's Peter Bach, right? And he said, "I'm from REM." I said, "Holy shit! Yeah, it's like REM. Like, I love your music. Blah blah. Would you like to tour with us?" And so I started to compose for them. Actually,
Wow.
I've been for 6 months, and I get tired of it. Like, I'm young at that time. I don't have even white hair, and I'm with this old, rock and roll guys, famous, and at any rate, and I started to compose music for string quartet, which is the first actually Arabic composer who studied oud and string quartet. I'm the first one.
Wow.
And I did records called Sadaka Quartet. And before that, and then the Smithsonian came in and brought me for this record, and I did it. And then I started, like I said, compose for jazz. It was Bill Frisell, he's a phenomenal, most phenomenal jazz composer in the United States. I mean, and it was a beautiful story too. I mean, the way he heard me on NPR and like blah blah. So I started to compose, like I said, from. I did records called Little Earth, which is I went to 6 continents, Rami,
Wow.
to compose music for unfamiliar instrument to me, like pipa in China,
Wow.
or sitar in India, or even didgeridoo from Australia. I mean, I started to compose music for that. Even I'm not really familiar with, so I have to listen to understand what the pipa, how that works, or the didgeridoo, which is one note. And we went to Australia and composed for this double records called Little Earth. I mean, guitar quartet, Santa Fe guitar quartet from Argentina. I'm like,
I remember this record very well. I listened to each one. It's like both in the same CD, both CDs
correct.
in the same package. It was fantastic. It was phenomenal.
Yeah, so it was really range of to put the oud with kora from Africa, or to put the oud with string quartet. I mean, I'm talking about guitar quartet, not even string quartet. Wow. And like the guitar quartet, I went to Argentina and do it with, which is the first ever happened in the history of the oud. None.
Yes.
Jamil Bashir actually, to some degree, yes, he did with two harp and but there no string. I mean, guitar quartet. No, as identity, as a quartet, guitar quartet. So I made this range to make this oud familiar. Like I said, from Africa, India, Iran, rock and roll, Native American. Also, I composed a piece for Robert Mirabal, he's the most famous flute and singer in the whole net, and he had like 14 records. 14 Grammy. Actually, he's very famous.
Wow.
Actually, he lives here in the United States, in my state, in Taos, north of New Mexico. To make the oud is more familiar with these ranges of variety of from classical to jazz, guitar quartet, didgeridoo, whatever it is,
and string quartet because the recent work
Of
on
course,
string.
of course, of course. And then I started to do with the string quintet actually also, which is adding double bass to it, and that's the essence of a classical music, which is string quartet plus double bass, which is called a quintet. And I started my own called the
Chamber music, maybe.
correct. And then I get with another Grammy for me and Ali Khan, which is he's the god of Surodo player on the planet actually. And he's the one. And we get a Grammy for it. In fact, this record, which is a beautiful story about it, because I remember I still knew it was 2002 or 2001 or something like that. And he came to the United States. And he comes every year to do a tour, big tour in the United States. And he has a concert in my town, in my state. And he was told by my friend, Man Ranger, he said, "Oh, there is an Iraqi oud player here." I said, "Well, really?" He said, "The woman ambition," because I remember he came to Iraq when I was studying, and he gave workshop to us in Baghdad. I was a kid. I was like 16 years old. So I met him. I didn't speak English. So we are in the studio, and we started playing, just me and him, and we recorded the whole record, just me and him. And I really forget about it. 10 years later, I heard it. I said, "Wow, this is really beautiful." I mean, after that, of course, I have my own record label. So I put it on my record 10 years later.
Wow.
And I get a Grammy for it.
Wow, that was a smart also act from you. That's
yeah,
absolutely.
And so that's what we're doing right now. And so the journey wasn't easy, Rami. To be honest, it wasn't smooth. I had to work really, really hard to prove to people that I'm a good musician, like a good composer, and to make the oud more familiar to a lot. And now it becomes really more, not because of me, but because the globalization, it becomes really more familiar and
For sure.
so forth. Now it's available. You are under your finger, right? You just put Rami Adli and boom, you will go. You can listen to Rami Adli all the time. I mean, 20 years ago, it wasn't available like that. It wasn't really familiar this way. There's no way to do it.
So how is the quarter tone for you? Because quarter tone for me was the challenge on the stage, because it's actually the American audience feels that's out of tune. How did you deal with this problem?
Well, actually, still challenging, to be honest. It's very challenging.
Do you still use quarter tones in your
correct? So what I do, actually, I have advantage, which my advantage was, Rami, is because I'm a violinist.
Oh.
So when I wrote it to them, of course, as you said, it's out of tune. And we have, as you know, a quarter tone in Arabic music and Middle Eastern, it's 8 notes, not just 1 note. I mean, between B and B flat, we have 8 notes.
This is monochromatic from sound.
It's 8 notes, of course. That's what we call a West or Saba or Segan. And every note, it has nothing. It's 8 notes. It's not really 1 note.
Right.
And that will be more familiar if you heard the Kanun, for example. You can hear the 8th note between B and B flat.
For sure.
And of course, you can do it in the oud too. So the advantage was really for me. I played it for them to the string quartet, and that's how they started doing it, imitating me. Here, no. It's out, lower back, lower.
So basically,
higher.
You are, for example, playing bayat while they are playing dashed. For example,
correct. Exactly.
So
exactly. So for them, it's in between B and B flat. I tell them no. That's the problem. When you put it just in between, you will be discord.
Yes.
It will be wrong note. So it was really challenging. Like now, the big challenge I had when I played with the symphony. With the symphony it was really difficult because I can't tell 21 violin
Yeah.
to play in the same note. I mean, there's no way to do it. So what I did actually, I took all the quarter tone pieces and I played it. I played the chord, and then they played the normal B flat or B. When I play with the string quintet, no, because I can approach, I can go there and play it for them, and we spend time together as far as we do it for tour, so they need to understand it very well. So and I'm practice with them. See, and then it make perfect sense. But the problem is when I tour, I'm not able to take my string quartet with me from New Mexico. I have to send them the score, and they have to rehearse by themselves, and they come day before I rehearse with them. And one day to teach them quarter tone, it's not really enough. It's not enough. That's the only challenge I had with this mentality of Western to Eastern music, and it's still challenging, to be honest. I mean, it's hard because when you go there and you play and you are on the stage and they play the note
Yes.
and your ears like, they play it wrong. For them, it's not wrong
Yeah.
because they put their finger just in between B and B flat.
That's it.
And that's it. Well, no. This is not what you. So it's been challenges really to it. But at the same time, Rami, it's just part of our growing. It's part of our journey to and that's what I really love about you, Rami, to be honest, because you are educator. You are not just composer and oud player, beautiful oud player. No, you are an educator. And I wish I could have this ability to teach, because you give a perspective to our legacy, to our tradition, and you give it to this beautiful musician who eager to learn this instrument, and that's a big, really honor. That's really big honor.
So nice of you to say. Thank you so much.
No, seriously, because teaching is honorable job anyway.
Yes.
But when you teach something, it's not just science. It's not something you go to the paper and you read it and you understand it. No, you have to interact every day with them, and you have to have a whole package. It's not just the music. You teach the culture too. Like, what do you mean by Bayat versus Saba and Sega and the philosophy behind the playing? It's not. I always say it's not just piece of wood with string. No, you're talking about culture. You're talking about thousands and thousands of years of develop that sound to come to this point. And now we have the opportunity to give it to another generation. And that's fascinating to me. I mean, like when you think, I have two students, which is, I'm a very bad teacher. I mean, I wish I could have I'm a horrible teacher, but because they are my friend, and when I see them playing, like, wow, that's really beautiful. I mean, because, like I said, you don't teach them just food; you teach them the culture.
Yes,
and that's something really.
So nice of you to say. Thank you.
Yeah,
that's awesome. One of the ouds is the new ouds for you, going to inspire you more, adding a new oud to your ouds library.
Oh yeah, well. I mean, I have as a musician. I mean, to my own taste, of course. I mean, sometimes I love to play like song Kulthum, Baid Annak, and I just go and I hold this Oriental oud, and sometimes I need to be Rahim Al Haj, just playing and something like that. Each instrument actually in school, it has its own taste, it has its own color, and it has its own enjoyment too. I mean, like I always say oud is like a human being. You born and
Yes.
who you are. This is Zami Adli, and this is Rahim Al Haj. I mean, this is it. This is who he is, and
True.
that's what the oud is. Like he's born, and that's it. Done. I mean,
Each one is different. It's completely different. Has
absolutely,
its own
absolutely.
taste, has its own soul comes with it, usually.
It's a whole identity. So it's for me sometimes like, which is not a lot. I mean, very very rare time that I have really luxury to say, hell with it. I'm not practicing today. I just want to play. Just play. Just for joy and sometimes with my wife and just playing song Feiruz
That is
and yeah,
fantastic
and something like that. Yeah,
explanation too, because time to practice is different than time to play and
of
to
course, of
enjoy.
course.
You see,
Okay.
that is awesome. How many hours do you personally practice?
I practice as I called it like like Quran for me.
أيوة.
So, yeah, I mean practicing is, and I'm obsessed about it too. I mean, and this is another things you need to tell yours. I mean, maybe they listen to it. It's like practicing is not up to you. No, no, no. It's requirement to to keep this relationship with your instrument every single day. I wake up 4 o'clock in the morning. I practice 6 to 8 hours a day
Wow.
every single day. Even when I travel, actually, I limit it to 3 to 4 hours. Even I'm traveling. I mean, I'm touring. I sit in my room and hotel, and I get this 3 to 4 hours. It's like
Working.
yeah, exactly. I mean, that's that you can't because and that's what the demand of the music. To be honest, it's not about it. No, it's about continuing this the same damn things. Like down, up, down, down, down. Like you do it, and you need to keep your level. Because as we know, when you 2 hours late, mean you are one day late, whole day. So imagine if you're not practicing 5 hours, that means you are almost 1 week late.
Mm.
So you have to keep up with that. And and by the way, practicing has nothing to do with the playing.
Mm.
I mean, it has nothing to do when you play your own piece and no, no, it has nothing to do with that. It's like you are disciplined to your brain to be able to function the right note. I always say to musician, and when I do a workshop, I said, when you practice, your goal not to play it right. No,
Mm-hmm.
your practice is not to play it wrong again.
Mm-hmm. Lots
That's
of
different.
lots of students
Yeah,
feels like they can't practice because they are doing it wrong. So I say to them, no, do it wrong, because when they do it
like
wrong, this is how they get it right, basically.
exactly. But the goal for practice is not just to get it right.
Yes,
It's basically you never get it wrong
absolutely,
again.
absolutely.
That's the idea. Because getting it right, maybe you know how we do it. When you wake up in the morning, you still have your stiff, and you start warming up.
Sure.
After 2 3 hours, your hand will be light. Your left hand will be light. Your brain is full of notes and music, so you relax and you play it really instead of just like really hard. No, no, you play just really soft and warm, and that's how you start it. And then soon you're playing full of that. I called it when the soul is settled. I mean,
Ah,
that's exactly. You have to settle your soul to play music, not to play notes.
true.
And that's different story.
That's
So with
awesome
the practice,
explanation
yeah.
too.
So with the practice is like basically you build in your soul
Yes,
until you need to settle it down. So your goal is not just to keep it to play it right, because the next day you'll forget it. No, your goal is not playing it wrong again ever, and
that's
that's
awesome.
we call it disciplined about it. Of course. So I practice every day, no matter what. If I'm traveling, if I'm home, or whatever, I have to keep my practice. Plus, of course, I have 3 hours. Actually, I mean, systematically, I practice systematically. I mean, how I started slow and I build it up, playing scales, working on my technique, being familiar with the with the feeling, and then 2-3 hours I'm starting to start searching for notes. To be honest, I search always like about note. I didn't hear it before. I mean, it's fascinating. It's 7 notes, and we can make all this music. I'm like, this is to me, it's like, it's inconceivable. Really, seriously, like 7 notes. And like all the music in the world built on top of the 7 notes.
And 19 centimeter. And 19 centimeter too. It's just limited.
Exactly, limit.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have a piano, right?
But you are not limited. There. This is the difference. That is the fascinating thing. Personally, do you play a Turkish style on an Iraqi oud? Or do you prefer to distinguish? I will play Iraqi style on Iraqi oud. I will play Turkish style on a Turkish oud.
That's the advantage of having Iraqi oud, actually. Having Iraqi oud will allow you to borrow the technique and the soul of the Turkish style. I mean, that's really the advantage. But if you have, like, for example, just Turkish oud, you'll not be able to do another, like, Iraqi style, for example. Does that make sense? Yeah, so it's like, it's not vice versa. So having an Iraqi oud will give you the chance to play other kind of school. I mean, you can play Oriental and Tatrib and Tarab, and you can play also the Turkish school of oud. And if you have this, I mean, of course, we have kind of solid, good built instrument that we have that things. But when I have just Turkish oud, I'm really limiting to Tatrib, to be honest. I mean, and it's fun and it's like beautiful. I'm not saying it's not good. It's like, it's beautiful. It has its own identity. It has its own color.
Oh, for sure.
It has its own sound. Of course. It's like any instrument, you know, when you have it.
Is the instrument itself going to give you its own also finger sound, or sorry, the sound identity that you can play? So, for example, if you play a Turkish oud and you feel like, oh, I really enjoy myself in this Tatrib sounds, and I will be here a little bit more than the Iraqi oud. So is the Iraqi oud going to be hard a little bit to identify?
To some degree.
Some degree, okay.
To some degree, yes. I mean, but because we have an Iraqi, and then you can just play Iraqi maqams, you know, so like I said again, when the instrument built really well, you're not gonna have that problem a lot. I mean, if you go to the Tatrib, I mean, not really. But if you have limited, you know, really an instrument that give you just one sound. I mean, so limitation. It's embedded with the instrument itself. It's like that makes sense. It's like we said. It's like a human being. So if you have really, you have ability. So with Iraqi oud, I tend always to, which is not more often, to be honest, to have fun with my instrument. Even though I love it, I adore it, I enjoy it so much, but at the same time, I feel like I'm obligated, I'm obsessed, to be honest. I'm really obsessed. And I've been saying this over and over again. To be a musician is not a choice. No. You have to be with no choice. That's amazing. Seriously. I mean, that's how you succeed your art. The art itself is there, but how can you go there? I mean, how can you serve that? I mean, we live in very hard Western society who very demanding of making a living here. You know,
Mm-hmm.
back home, you know, we live it somehow, you
Exactly.
know.
Right.
But here is the demand of living is so demanding and it's so hard, so difficult. And then you will end up with no time. I mean, it's not really about just because I like it or just because I need it. No, it's not about that. Yeah? You don't have that privilege. Literally, you don't have it. So to be a musician, to be an artist, you have to tell yourself, actually, you don't have choice except playing world. God knows. And I said it again, which is my secret to the art. I said, you need to be an artist. The goal is not to make a living, to play it free. And that's horrifying. That's difficult. Does that make sense? Like
It
I will
does.
have to elaborate about that. What does that mean? Means like you go to the concert and you play in your mind, I'm not gonna make a living from it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You go to play the music
Absolutely.
because you love it. You need to make it. There's nothing free. There's nothing is free. It's gonna come no matter what. If you are really determined and then you believe in yourself and that's what I did. If I really didn't stuck with what I believe in, I will be probably professor in some university and that's it. Done. You know, I'm not being Rahim Al Haj as a musician and composer who that's what I do. This is my living. I mean, I'm a musician, and that's what everybody should be because I've been saying it over and over and over again about it. I said, well, wait a minute. When you go to med school,
Mm-hmm.
you train to be a doctor, right?
Sure.
That's normal. I mean, you went to medical school as became a doctor to become a doctor. You went to engineering school to be engineer, right? That's what you work as
Right.
engineer.
Right.
You went to the art school to be an artist.
That's right. That's correct.
Like,
Absolutely.
that's what I trained for, right?
Wow.
That's what I spent all my life to be an artist. I'm not trained to be a doctor. I mean, that's simple.
That's absolutely
Now,
correct.
but this is not really the case in the West.
Mm-hmm.
This is not. I mean, there's a phenomenal musician. We struggle here to make living, really. I mean, and we know them. I mean, like my musician here in the United States, I mean, like in my home, to be honest, like, I have 4, 5, 6 teen students and playing chamber
You
music
know,
and classical.
even Queen, the great band struggled for a while to make a great living in America. Led Zeppelin,
Absolutely.
like they are having also. So that's not a person by himself. This is absolutely an
No,
industry in America in general.
that's the challenge.
Yes,
Absolutely, that's the
I
challenge.
remember.
In
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
no, no, like I said, that's the challenge being an artist. I mean, the world has to really. There's a big kind of discussion about the meaning of art. I mean, how much we put effort to the art. I mean, like,
Wow,
okay, how much value we need to put to make
wow,
this art it's available. I mean, viable to go there and you pay $15 or $20 to go to hear live music, right?
true.
It's not this. Oh no, this is I'm just going to listen to music and concert or live concert. I will just buy the record or listen to it on YouTube, and that's what we have right now. And I've been
Mhm.
saying it. Really, it's very difficult for me to be honest. Now they need to make the art free, as if like this artist who, like me or you or hundreds and millions of them, who trade all their damn life to be an artist,
Mhm.
and they need to listen to Rahim Al Haj free. Wait a minute, why?
Exactly. That's very true.
I mean,
Very
why?
smart.
Why do you think listen to me? It's free while you go to doctor and you pay money for it because
Very,
you are sick.
very wise
You
question.
go to the grocery store and you pay what you're gonna get. Why do you think I'm less valuable than anything else? I mean, like why you treat me I'm secondary? Why you treat me like I'm not important? right? And that, unfortunately, and that's what the world coming right now. It's like we talk right now on internet
Right.
and online, right? And they need. He said, no, well, if you don't need to, don't listen to it. Like they make it cheap. Really, they make it cheap because they don't
Lots of
put
supply.
value.
And
They
the
don't put
supply.
value.
Sure.
It's so hard. It's like I don't need to convince people that I am worth it. I'm worth it because I trained that way. I mean, that's all I know. I'm an artist. I trained to be an artist. I tell the people, when you go to the concert and you pay this $20, you're not paying this $20 for 1 hour. No. You're paying this $20 for countless hours of practicing
For
every
sure.
single
Absolutely.
day.
Absolutely.
You're talking about this musician who spent all his life practicing,
Right.
6 to 8 hours a day, to get to this level, to pay this fucking damn $20.
Right.
It's not because, oh God, come on, you go there and pay $200 for 1 hour. Well, yeah, but you're not paying it for my 1 hour. You pay for 30 years, 34 years of a practice,
That's true.
dedication. That's what the art about. I mean, so I was talking to my manager and I told him, look, when you have, they have meetings, right? I mean, all these presenters, whatever. And I said, please bring it up. Tell them, don't make the artist now go to online free and I can see it all kind of, oh, I don't give a shit, right? I'm like, no, it's become cheap. When we are cheap, you don't value it because it's not important. And we need to put value, really value about art essential. It's like food, like
And
anything
people,
essential things in life.
and people who entered your concert, they will not forget it because it's already like when I entered your concert in Washington several times in your tours, and it was one of the nights that I never forgot. It's just amazing what you're doing in all circumstances. It's like deep soul working, all your dedication. That so appreciate your journey, so appreciate your silver hair with all the experience that you have. And
Yeah, I told them like, look, his hair doesn't become white.
sure,
It's not
say
from.
something.
So, anyways, like really, that's what was important. Like you go into concert, you not just to have fun and listen to 1 hour. No, you're gonna take whole experience of life with you. It's gonna resonate with you hours and
Absolutely.
hours and hours and times and sometimes you change life of one piece. You play it to somebody and then he get it and he get what you're
Absolutely.
talking about
Absolutely.
and you change his life.
The concert
Completely.
especially for oud concerts, the concerts is like a gallery of taking pictures, is gathered pictures in the soul of the player, putting a song that's composed by many years of work
Right.
and experience put into 3 minutes music that's actually energy
Right.
transferred from a person who has all the expressions needed to express the soul to the oud, to the audience. So
To the audience.
for sure the audience got absolutely fantastic experience subconsciously and consciously during concerts like the world music concert, oud concert, is especially this spiritual type of music too, the Sufi music, and you have also the classical music or all type of this line of work. It's not a machine music. It's not a computer
Right.
thought about
Right.
something to be.
But even record, Habibi, like sometimes I'm gonna buy my record, but this is not about that. The life of music has nothing to do with records. Yes, he's the same Rahim, he's the same Rami.
Mm.
When he's on the stage, he's giving you his own life,
Yes,
his own feeling
Absolutely.
instantly. This is, I call it frozen music. really frozen. I
Mm.
mean, just
Mm.
yes, it has a beautiful element. You can listen to it while you're drinking your wine or having or whatever. But live music or live art is just experience. I mean, that's people they have to understand the essence and how important is to go to live concert to see this and to experience this guy. He's been practicing hours and hours and hours to do his best, on the stage. He deserves this $20 for
Absolutely.
God's sake. I
Absolutely.
mean, come on. And like, it was like, what are you talking about? I mean, like, you not just you need to make living off of it, but he give you all his life experience. Do you think it's not worth the $20, $10, or whatever it is, or $100? It doesn't matter really. But you, good. I mean, this musician, he practiced hours and hours. I mean, even before, and I'm talking about just like all his life, Rami, but like you're talking even when you have a concert, of course
Oh,
you
tons
practice
of
like
work.
constant, right?
Oh, for sure. Tons
Constantly.
of work. And lighting to be the sound engineer. When you do a live
Exactly.
concert, you are not doing live concert alone for one benefits. You have sound engineer is working. You have the light engineer is working. You have the
Hmm.
parking lot outside is working. You have the
Exactly.
ushers. You have the security is working. You have the police is like saving your concert and security outside. You have 10 times more than one person, the artist himself, which is the core value of the all, but the same thing that is how the concert done. So
Absolutely.
Rahim Al Haj, it's fantastic to be with you. It's awesome. It's
Pleasure,
awesome.
my friend.
Awesome.
Pleasure, my
Awesome.
friend. And I would say, if whatever, listen, please be attention to this oudinstrument.com. It's gonna be really a lifetime changing, and you will think how you connect with this oud, with this master, really player like Ram Adli, and he's a beautiful teacher. And take advantage from that, people. If you listen to me, please listen to this oudinstrument.com, and you will change your life forever.
That's fantastic. Rahim Al Haj, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.
You too.